And I'll let you have the stage, Barn.
Yeah, so 3 tries apiece. 1 out of 3 conversions for the Storm, played 0 out of 3 for the Rabbits. 1 out of 1 point field goal for the Storm, and 1 out of 1 2-point field goals for South. 69% completion to the Storm, 61% to the 61% to the Rabbits. 29 out of 42 sets played, 29 out of 47 sets. South actually had 460 running meters more than the Storm and 100 plus post contact meters, which really didn't look like it for the majority of this game until the Storm switched off. 3 line breaks to 5, 24 tackle busts to 39, 16 offloads for the Storm, 8 to Souths, 2 forced dropouts to 0, 0 40-20s, 361 tackles for the Storm, 321 for Souths, 1 ruck infringement apiece, 1 inside the 10 for both teams, 10 penalties conceded by the Storm, 4 conceded by Souths. 18 errors to 19, 2 sin bins for the Storm. Josh King with 51 tackles, Cook with 53 tackles, Grant with 145 running meters, and Campbell Graham with 169. Munster missed 10 tackles and made 24, and Walker missed 4 tackles and made 17.
Who wants first crack at this? Ollie, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, I'll go first. I remember saying to you guys when it looked like South Sydney might be coming back to win, and I said I'd be absolutely disgusted if South Sydney won this game because they were god-awful for the majority of it. I mean, that point in the second half when they dropped below a 50% completion rate. I mean, even in the worst teams usually don't drop below 50% completion rate, at least not often. And this is
Tigers were 61.
This is a team that was in the grand final last year, a team that's still on paper at least probably better than a lot of teams in the competition. And to put on that performance, they're just lucky that Melbourne were off, if you will. I'm a bit surprised looking at the stats now because they ended up with a 61% completion rate, so exactly like your Tigers. Melbourne 69%, but they both completed 29 sets. South Sydney just had 5 extra sets in total, which was a bit of a surprise, but it just seemed that every single time there was like a wide open gap for Alex Johnston, I think it was, to score, he'd be past the ball and just drop an absolute sitter. Or Melbourne would make a mistake and 2 minutes later South Sydney would, and Melbourne would make said mistake about 20 metres out from their own line, especially for the first 20 minutes of the second half. It seemed like South Sydney just consistently got really good chance after really good chance after really good chance and just kept blowing it. And I suppose with about 10 minutes to go, they capitalised on it. They scored 3 tries and they managed to make a game out of it, and we went to Golden Point. I guess sort of the question I'd pose to you guys is if South Sydney were playing that bad but were still able to come back, or I know a lot of the attention has been on South Sydney, but what about Melbourne? Because they really should have put South Sydney to the sword here. Like, honest, this should never have been a Golden Point game with that performance that South Sydney put on.
I still don't know what to think of the game. For the first 60 minutes, it was under 14s against under 8s, and it really should have been 40-0. Like, in Melbourne, it was un-Melbourne-like to not be ruthless and finish it off. I don't know, but I think a couple of times in the box, and I know that Craig Bellamy sort of goes off and is very animated, but there was a mistake made when they were comfortably in front 14-0, and he sort of stood up and walked away. And I think maybe he saw something in the team, maybe related to effort or little 1%ers or something that he expects that he wasn't seeing. Because I think even at that point he thought, if they get some opportunities here, we could be in trouble. I think that South, their comeback coincided with moving Jackson Paulo from centre to wing. It's very obvious that Jackson Paulo is not a centre in the NRL. He's fine on the wing. He's a good finisher. He's okay under the high ball. So I would have him in the side on the wing, but in the centres, he got in the way on that left side of the field. He just got in the way and was sort of stopping the attack. So I don't know moving forward what they do in their centre, who they put there.
Milne was fine now.
I don't even remember what they did for the rest of the game, who they put there in that last 20 minutes when they moved Jackson Paulo to the wing. I don't even remember.
They put Tane Milne.
That's right, Tane Milne went into the centre, so maybe Tane Milne plays centre for them this week. in there. I don't know if Blake Taft comes back, whether he's an answer in the centres because of his defence. They probably want to play him because he's a good player, and I think he's in their top 17, but they can't play Paulo there. And still in the forwards, and I don't believe the run meter stat either. I know it's true because Barney's said the stat, but they must have run for the extra 500 metres in the last 10 minutes, because in the first 60 minutes or the first half, there's no way they were within Bullamakanka of it. Like the forward performance in the first half, they were kidding. Like every time Jesse Bromwich got the ball, he offloaded, and Nelson, he offloaded. They look like Arthur Beetson. They're good players, but seriously, like the first half, Souths in the forwards were just so bad. They got better in the second half. Look, as Ollie said, they're a really good side. They're still a good side on paper. Latrell needed the run. Like Latrell was still good, but needed the run. Cody Walker at the moment's just hasn't been influential in either game that South have played. I don't know whether that's a not having Reynolds thing. I did hear rumours today about the Luke Brooks, that he's asked for a release, and they're starting to mention South as a possible destination for Luke Brooks. Does that help Cody Walker?
To be honest, that's best possible outcome for both teams.
Well, let's just see how that plays out. Like, actually, as a Bulldogs fan, I wouldn't mind having Luke Brooks there, because I think all they need is a 7 that's going to pass the ball and can half
miss tackles,
because they've got Burton and just does his job and can tackle because Avarillo's not quite there. So, it wouldn't worry me if he went there either. I think that, but anyway, I'll let you guys talk about this game a bit more, because I'm still not sure what to think about it. In the end, I'm not sure.
Honey?
How Cameron Murray starts on the bench, I'll never know. That first 15 minutes directly correlated with him not being on the field. And Melbourne went straight through the middle, whereas he makes 2 and 3 tackles in every single set through the guts when the big guys are coming at him. You might not be knocking them on their ass, but he's wrapping their legs up, or he's wrapping that offload up, and he's stopping that go forward for the opposition. So how that bloke's not playing 60, 70, 80 minutes every game, I have no idea what happened there. Some sort of inspiration came to the coach, and he decided to put him on the bench, but it definitely hurt South to start this game.
He can't be fit. That's the only logical.
It didn't seem to me like he was missing
well,
much.
That's what I mean.
Out there.
I can't imagine. Why are you trying to protect Cameron Murray?
I don't know. Cook's just getting eaten up in defence. He has done for the last couple of years. He's got nothing in attack because they just run at him all day. And without Murray and somebody else on his outside, he's making one-on-one tackles in the middle of the field. He's only a small bloke, and you've got blokes like Nelson Solomona and Bromwich running directly at you. That's going to gas you out pretty quick. And as you mentioned, he was gone for the last half an hour of the game, so he was well and truly cooked by come second half. And that was when South actually started to get a bit of a roll on in that. There was probably 10 minutes after half time, because they were well and truly out of this game, as you mentioned, in the first half, and probably should have been 30 points behind going into half time. The fact that I think you mentioned Bellamy's blow up, I think that more came about with just the connection between Harry Grant and the halves, because Harry Grant was pretty much everything in Melbourne's attack in that first half an hour of this game. And that link between Munster and Hughes just didn't seem to be smooth at all during this game. It was very clunky. And go on.
Can we let it finish? When you mention a connection, there's actually a disconnect. And what was apparent is that Munster and Papenhuyzen think they're playing the same role. Now Munster's fit. Look at the disallowed try. They're both going for the same ball. I agree it was disallowed. I'm not going to go down that path. He shouldn't have been. It was offside. But they're both now running for the same lines, trying to get the same chases and the same ball through, and they're now getting each other's way. It was actually pretty apparent a couple of times. And then he'd either pull him up and say, "Come on, Cam, that's Pappy's job," or vice versa. But I felt like it happened a few times, even when they're trying to hit the right through.
Munster seemed to play a little too close to the middle as well. If you're going to play 5'8", you
job.
Really want to be on the outside of Jerome Hughes. And Jerome Hughes is going to have to play both sides of the field for this team's attack to come back to where it was at the back end of last year. and just straighten them up, and then let you've got Pappy on the inside of you, Munster on the outside, and a couple of big centres out there and wingers that can finish. So, I think they weren't direct enough. Harry was realistically the only one that was going direct through the ruck, and it was working for them, but they just didn't put on enough points in that first half, and it almost cost them, really, because they absolutely switched off for the last half an hour of this game.
Well, I reckon the disconnect comes from the fact, too, that they don't have that 13 that's a ball player. That the teams that look a little bit more connected, like
in theory, they will have when Cheese comes back in.
That's what I mean. But at the moment, they don't have that 13. That's like even Souths, when they became really cohesive, was when Murray was getting the playmakers wider and they were straightening it up. So the teams that are looking more connected have that 13 that's sort of in that role and is playing it really well.
Yeah. So having had the weekend to think about this and watch some of the games since, were Souths very bad, Melbourne not as bad, but were smothered by the fact Harry Grant's a superstar? Because, geez, he did a lot in this game. Maybe when you look back at, I'm also playing through some of the other games where teams came back, maybe it was an average game of footy that was dominated by a superstar and made the rest of the Melbourne team look better.
Probably right.
What that then means is, and he's going to dominate. If this is the case, if this is the standard across 12 teams, then Harry Grant's going to be a very good player this year. Like, what can you say?
Yeah. Well, I'm happy with him as my Dally M pick on that performance.
Oh, well, he's going to be getting 3 points more often than not, isn't he?
Yeah.
Incredible. 100. He led the run meters bonus. He had 145 run meters for equal with Kafusi. What do you make? 40 tackles.
And they were all legs tackles too, Harry Grant. You don't even notice he's defense.
There was one just before half time, and it was a picture. It was a picture perfect. Chop him down about 10 meters out. Jeez, he's a good player. Wish he stayed at the Tigers. You mentioned Paulo before. If their one play is, and their one play is the left side sweep, because obviously that's all they train, because it's the only play they actually played all night when they had ball Souths. Why wouldn't you just put Campbell Graham on the left side?
Well,
we're chips in here. You know it's coming. We're gonna play it anyway. Just put the New South Wales centre over there, because if they do, they probably win the game if Campbell Graham's on that side.
Well, they did sort of start their comeback by going to the right, actually. Campbell Graham started making some inroads.
He was very good. He was probably South's best.
They got a bit of quick play the ball off him, sort of half busting tackles, and then they'd go back to the left. Realistically, for me, the instant fit is Taff to fullback and Latrell to left centre.
100%. And
I know Latrell's not going to be happy with it, and it's going to be a hard conversation to have with him. But if you want this team running on the best attack that they can provide, I think it's pretty simple. Latrell goes to centre. Taff slips in and around the middle.
Latrell to centre. Yeah. The only reason they won't is because it'll be perceived as a demotion. It'll never ever happen.
Latrell will go to centre. No way in the world they could be 0-7 and Latrell still won't go to centre.
Because he won't.
Well, not that.
It'll be an admission of...
The rookie coach will not put Latrell to centre, because if it's 2 games that it doesn't work, he's gone.
Yeah.
It's career suicide for him. So he's just going to have to bank on the centre he puts there can just do the job.
So you know what the next answer will be? Will be that Ilias is going to be the one to cop the bullet. They'll move Latrell to 6, play Cody at 7, and put Tafe at 1, and they'll back that. And I think that's coming. I think the drum's already beating before the season that Latrell wants to play 6, and he'll probably get his way. Well, and he probably should, but he's got to have to do a lot of defense in the front line suddenly again. And
absolutely.
Well, at the Roosters, I thought Latrell was always good when he filled in at 6, and I was surprised when he first signed with South Sydney. I sort of thought, not when he first signed with South Sydney, but when there were first the rumours that he was leaving the Roosters, my mind was he's leaving to play 5'8" somewhere, because he was really good when filling in that position. So
he wanted 1 because in his mind he wanted 1, but he probably is a 6. He's got a boot on him.
I don't know about him. 6.
It won't help Souths, but that's where they think he can.
I don't know that he. I don't know he does enough. I don't know that he's going to have to do a lot more work before I'm convinced he's a 6.
You know what he is? He's the best centre in the game that won't play centre.
Well, probably right.
He's the best centre in the game, full stop, and he doesn't want to play centre.
Yeah.
Anyway, do we have any takeaways for players?
Oh, the best players for Souths, I thought, were Murray, Campbell, Graham, and Cook. They were probably the best 3 standout performances, even though Cook missed the last 20 minutes, half an hour.
I actually thought Havili's service, not saying he's the best, but Havili's service was quite good. He was
he's
good.
Definitely serviceable, and I'm surprised they don't play him more minutes in the back row either, because you can get 50 to 60 minutes out of that guy, but they do what they do. Arrow and Totola and Latrell were probably the only other 3 from South that were really worth mentioning. What do you say? Hughes, Remis, and Pappy were pretty decent. Munster and Naz, but it's the man of the match. It has to be Harry, doesn't it?
3 points all around.
So you think there's he should just get 6? I don't think there's any point debating that. But Pappy was good, and I was actually blown away. He's just in everything. He's just an energizer buddy. 80th minute, he's chasing bombs. He's and we didn't mention the field goal, and nor Latrell's field goal. Which he carried on enough after he'd missed 3 kicks earlier, which were all easier. And but Pappy's field goal, he can ice it. He was
cool too.
Pretty much close to his
pressure on him.
Yeah,
he stepped and was running when he kicked it. So
yeah,
it's a decent effort.
But just God, I don't think there's a fullback in the game that puts out more effort than he does.
No, yeah, your closest option.
No, he's involved
minute by minute.
He'd have the most. Him or Teddy.
Teddy
would have as many possessions as each other, I think.
But he's kick chases. He's in every bomb. He's there. Every chip. Anyway. 3 points, Harry. Let's move on.